Welcome to Microsoft Excel 2019 Lesson 6, Advanced Features and Review by Megan Reese. In this final MOS certification focused lesson, we're going to learn a couple of, really odds and ends, things we haven't quite covered that are probably going to be on the MOS test. And then there's just a few things we're going to review. The functions you're most likely to see, maybe some of the more obscure things you're likely to forget. I just basically put everything in this lesson that are things that might trip you up on the test. And so it is a little bit eclectic, and it's probably a little quicker, maybe not as long as some of the previous lessons. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to learn how to do is called sparklines. The first time I ever saw sparklines was when I took the 2016 test. I had never used it before. And so let's make sure we get this covered because it's definitely on there. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna highlight this, and a sparkline is like a little mini graph. So you're gonna go to the insert menu, and there's a couple ways you can do it. You can start with where you want the graph to come up and then do the location, or you can highlight what's gonna be in the graph and then tell it where to go. Either way works. But you'll notice over here, we have a section that says sparklines, and there are three different kinds that you can make. And the first one is a line sparkline. And see, it's asking where the location range is. Okay, so it's telling me the data range. That's what I have highlighted. And it's asking for the location. Where do you want it to show up? I want it to show up right there. I click OK, and it just makes like a mini graph. And it's kind of cool. I can autofill it down just like anything else. If I go to Sparkline Tools, I have a lot of options here. I can choose different colors that are provided. I can choose my own color. I can go to more colors and select a color. I believe I have you go in and do a custom color where I give you the numbers. You have to type them in here, so that's kind of cool. Good to be aware that you can do that. The marker color changes the, if you want to add markers to it, so it's got little dots like that. And you can even say, oh, that's the low point. I want it to be yellow, and I want the last point to be red or something. So you have control over a lot of different things. And then, of course, if you want to change the background color, you can just go to shade it just like anything else. You can shade the background color. And if I were to change a number in here, change it kind of dramatically, it's going to update just like it would on a regular graph. Okay, we're going to try the second type of graph of sparkline. Highlight the same information, I think, actually like that. And I'm going to go to column. And this time I want the answer up here. I'm going to click OK. And it's going to do pretty much the same thing, but it's going to give it to me in columns. And then I can kind of choose my color. I can choose my sparkline color, what color I want the columns to be. So it's really pretty similar. It's just whichever one matches better what you're trying to show. And you can still do high points and low points and whatnot, which is, effective to see what, which quarter it's the most profitable or whatever your numbers happen to be. Okay, the last one isn't really needed unless you have, it's a win-loss. So you have to have negative numbers. So it's specifically for negative numbers. I'm going to highlight these, go to win-loss, tell it where I want the answer to be. It's going to click OK, and then it's going to show me when it's high and when it's low. And of course, the example I give you in the lesson is stock market, because that's a really easy one to understand why you'd want to know when it's going up or down. I haven't seen that there's a way to change the negative color. I don't know if I'm just not finding it, but I think it's stuck with red no matter what. I don't know. So I don't know, there's other options in here that we're not going to really get to, but that's it. I mean, sparklines are pretty straightforward, but they can be quite useful. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is a Pareto chart. So a Pareto chart, again, this is I saw for the first time on the 2016 test. I don't know if it shows up on 2019, but I thought I'd include it because it's nowhere in here are you going to see a Pareto chart. You're going to be like, what is a Pareto chart? What is that? And so it goes under here under histograms, and that's where you can get confused because you're like, it's a histogram. It's not a Pareto chart. Pareto chart is right there, Pareto. Okay. And what a Pareto chart does is it basically graphs. It's this idea that, let me read the directions. Okay, so I'm just going to read this straight from your assignment because it says it better than I can. Pareto chart is a simple bar chart that ranks measures in decreasing order of occurrence. It is based on the unequal distribution of things in the universe, meaning that a significant few things will make up 80% of the whole, while trivial may make up 20%. So in this example, I literally made up these numbers, but this I do a survey on my students, and this is generally what I see. The majority of the class is going to say about the same thing, and they only have a few outliers, right? So 80% of the kids are going to say this, And then only a few kids will say this. It's not going to be evenly distributed, right? So it's just this idea that you can have a list of 10 things, but 2 of them are going to make up half, regardless. So anyways, we're going to highlight that. We're going to go to insert, and you have to come over here to histogram right here. And if you want a Pareto chart, you want that one right there. And that's it. I mean, seriously, that's all it is. I've watched my students get really hung up on that one. They just can't figure out, what is a Pareto chart? And so anyway, that's what it is right there. And it probably will be on at least the 2016 test, if not the 2019 test. So there's your Pareto chart. All right, this next section is all based on subtotal. And it's really just a function that you can use different ways. And once I show it to you, you'll be like, oh, this would have been so much easier back in, I think it was lesson 2 where you had to do this. And it's all coming down to filters. So we're going to go ahead and filter this. So we're going to go to data and filter. And a subtotal means that so in the assignment, it's going to make you add it the normal way and then add it the subtotal way so you can see the difference. So if I come up here and I say sum all this information, okay, it's going to give me 11,000. Let's go ahead and do that across, okay? So lovely. That's lovely. Okay. Then I come in here and I'm like, you know what? I only want to know about the green team. Okay. Notice my numbers don't change. And I'm like, but I want to know just green team. I want to know what their total is. This is still adding this amount, right? It's adding F6 through F21, whether I can see it or not. Okay. So it doesn't really help me much. And so whenever I had less questions in there with the filter where it's like, what's the sum total of something? It was really hard to figure it out. So you can also do it using subtotal. So what you do is you do equal subtotal. And it's kind of weird. It's a little different than any of the others you've used. It's got all these little codes in here. Okay, there's a bunch of them. Half of these I have no idea what they do. But if we want to max them or sum them, so let's do sum. So I'm going to type a 9. And then I do the information here. And I'm done. Okay, I get the same number. And I'm going to go ahead and do that across. So they look identical right now. But when I come in here and I say only show me green team, now it does the totals for me. Okay, so we'll actually figure that out. And notice I have a lot of options. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Okay, I could also do equal subtotal. Maybe I want to do the average. Okay, so I do 1, highlight the information, enter, and I can pull that across, okay? And then now when I do, maybe let's do red team, it's going to tell me the average, okay? I might also want to do, and it does it for all the quarters, right? I might also want to do like count A or something. So maybe I'm counting how many, like it could be a question where it's like, how many people on green team made over $500 or something like that. So I could do count. I'm going to do count A. You can do, oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. Subtotal. Now, count A is if I want to count the names of the people, which sounds good to me. Okay, or you might want to count numbers, but in which case you'd use count. But I'm going to do count A, and then I count the people, right? Okay, so I know there's 16 salesmen, but now if I come in and say, okay, I only want to know which team members had, or how many people made more than, let's see, had greater than or equal to 500. Okay, click OK, and now it's going to tell me it's 12. So I don't have to sit there and count. And you could be like, well, I could just count it. It won't take me very long. Well, okay, sure, but this could be a giant list. You could have hundreds of names in this list, right? So that way I can get the information very quickly, and it's already added up how many names are filtered. So the subtotal really works great when you're using a filter. All right, moving right along, we're already to part C. I told you this one wouldn't be as intense. So there's only 3 things. Part C has a lot of review in it. I'm not going to go over the review. You should know how to do concatenate and mix and min. You can go back to previous lessons and find those things. So I'm not going to go through all of that. But there are several things in this lesson that we don't know how to do. So looking at your list here, remove conditional formatting. I don't know that we've actually really talked about that, so we're going to go through that. Hide and unhide, which I've purposely not told you about till now. And then show formulas. Those are all things that we haven't done in lesson 3. So the first one is removing conditional formatting. Let me fix this for a second. So let's go ahead and add conditional formatting first. So let's say I'm like, oh, show me everything that has is greater than 5 or 450 or something like that. Okay, so just as a little reminder there how to do conditional formatting in case you forgot. That's going to be on the test too, I'm sure. Okay, so now I've done some conditional formatting. How do I get rid of it if I don't like it? So I would highlight it where it's already done. I would go to conditional formatting and go to manage rules, and I can see all my rules there. Click on that and delete it. I believe that was on the test and kind of surprised me that it was going the other way around. I focus so much on making sure you know how to put it in. We don't really talk about how to get rid of it. Okay, another one is hide and unhide. And I purposely do not teach you this until lesson 6 because this is how I hide all the magic that's making your stuff work. Whenever you get a check mark, whenever it turns colors or whatever, a lot of that is because I've hidden stuff elsewhere in the sheet, and so I don't like you to know that I'm doing that, so I don't tell you, but you have to know it for the test, otherwise I wouldn't tell you. But to hide stuff, very easy. You just highlight it, right click, and hide, and it's gone. You can kind of see that there's something missing there. Okay, if you want to unhide it, you right click and unhide, and then it's showing again. So, and you can do the same thing with rows. You could hide rows. Okay. You can also hide and unhide sheets. So if I have a sheet I want to hide, I can right click on it and do hide. And what I like about this, Google tends to show what's hidden. That's one thing I hate about Google Sheets is if you hide columns, it'll have a little arrow there. And so people can see it. I kind of want it to be hidden and Google like gives it away. With this one, you can't tell that it's there unless you right click and say unhide. And then it will say, oh, this is what's missing. And I can unhide that sheet and then there it is. So a lot of times that's where I put the key or something. I'll hide it. Not in any of your lessons though, so don't try it. Okay, so that's hiding and unhiding. All right, the next thing is show formulas. So I'm going to go, let's see if I have anything. Oh, I deleted it. Hold on. Okay, so I went back to, I just did edit undo like crazy. So I can show this because I have formulas in here. Okay, so what I do is I go to view, or sorry, I forget every time, formulas. And we haven't spent like any time in here. So I want to point out a couple of things. If you haven't figured out Name Manager yet, that's how you delete stuff. So if you highlight something and you call it, like say I highlight this and I'm like, I call this, team 1 or something. When you're naming a range, sometimes you'll name the range and you're like, oh, just kidding. I don't want that to be named anymore. So I've got team 1. How do I get rid of it? Well, then you would go over here to Name Manager and you would delete it. Okay, and I can't remember if I showed you that or not, so I wanted to remind you. But you can also do show formulas, which is just changing your view, and it will show all the formulas that you put in. Okay, problem with show formulas, as you can see, is it makes everything giant. Very annoying. It's going to do that to you when you get to this section, so you'll have to go in and resize. Remember, column width. You can change it to a different size column or whatever, but it does make everything really big, which is kind of irritating, but you can fix it. It's not like it's a permanent state. You can kind of resize it to make it fit again, but that's what show formulas does. It's just a view. That's all. But see, now everything's going to shrink once I take it off. So anyway, it's really good for me to see if you actually did it. I can see that you did your show formulas. All right, and so at this point, you're going to be like, well, where's C5? You'll be on C, and you'll be like, there is no C5. The C5 part you actually do in part D, okay? So we're going to learn how to change our bars up here. So you'll notice I already have my camera up here. That's something that you're going to do. I'm going to show you how to do that, so I'm going to actually get rid of that so I can show you how to do it. But you can actually customize this bar. There are so many things you can do in Word that it does not show you, that it are not on there, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So first is the quick access bar. If there's something that you use a lot and you just want to have easy access, I can use it all the time, you can put up here a quick access bar. And I put the camera there. So if you're using an older version of I think 2013 doesn't have cameras, 16 I think does, 16 does, pretty sure. Then the camera option won't be available. Just do something else. The camera function itself is not going to be on the test, but putting something on your quick access bar is. So don't let the camera be the whole focus, but it is pretty awesome because this is how I've been doing everything. So it's kind of fun as you get to the later lessons. You're like, oh, well, that's how she did it. So we're going to go ahead and go to File Options, and we're going to go to Customize Ribbon, or right here, Quick Access Toolbar. Okay, so that's this, right? Right now it has a Save, Undo, and Redo. That's all that's on it. So right here is Popular Commands. It's just going to be stuff that's already on my bars somewhere, I don't want that. I want to go to all commands. And you're going to be like, what? Like, look at all this stuff that you can do that's not, doesn't have a button. Okay, there's no button for it unless you put it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and choose camera. I'm going to add that. Click OK, and now I have a camera there. And what camera does is it takes a screenshot. So I'm going to highlight something, click the button, come over here, paste, and there it is. And that's how I did like all the graphs in lesson 3. It updates. So if you change something in here, I delete that out, for example, it's going to update it just like it did in all the lessons. I've been using this all along. So now you know how I did it with camera. But again, the focus is not so much on camera. It's really cool, but can you put something on your quick access toolbar? Okay, so the other one we do is we go to File, Options, and this one is the Customize Ribbon. So it's going to change the actual ribbon over here. Now you know this, I don't know if you've paid much attention to this, but each ribbon also has a subgroup, right? You've got the alignment part, the number section, the style section. So if I click on the home over here, there it is, clipboard, font, alignment. See how they're all up there, okay? So if I'm like, oh, I want to add something, say I wanted to add, most of these, let's get out of popular commands, let's go to all commands. Let's say I wanted to add 3D map. I don't know why I'd want to add that, or 3D rotation or something. Maybe I use that a lot for some reason. I can't just add it. It's going to tell me I need to pick a group. I have to create a new group. I can't add it to an already existing group, okay? The one I've asked you guys to do is Paste Special, because I do use that a lot. So it's right there. And before I can add it, I've got to decide where it's going to go. Where do I want Paste Special to be? Well, all my paste stuff is in this clipboard section. So I can't put it in clipboard, okay, it won't let me, but I can do new tab or new group or rename or whatever. So I'm going to do new tab or new group. I'm going to put that up here. There we go. And now I can put Paste Special in that section, okay? And I believe I can rename that if I want to do like, you know, paste. Let's see if it'll let me say that. Pasting crap. Okay, let's see. Let's see if it does it. Okay, and then I click OK, and now I have a section. Oh, you can't read it, but it says pasting crap. And I have Paste Special, which means if I copy something like this, or actually let's go over here. If I copy something, sorry, let's turn off my show formulas because it is messing me up. Okay, so I take this and I copy it, and then when I go to paste it, I can do Paste Special, which lets me decide if I want to paste the values or the formats or the comments. I do use this an awful lot because sometimes I only want the values. I just want the letters. I don't want it. See, if I click on this, it's still giving me the formula. I don't want that. I want this to be solid. That's actually one of the tricks I have for giving you check marks. That's how I make it possible for it to not only know, for it to know that you have to type in the formula exactly correct. I use this. Anyway, so special, that's the special paste that you have to do. Okay, another small thing that you're asked to do is to remove grid lines. Very simple. If I go to view, I just check this box that takes the grid lines out. It makes no difference in a printed document. It's going to look exactly the same, but sometimes you just want it to look cleaner and neater when you pull it up, so you can take those grid lines out. It's really just a view while you're in the program. Document properties, I believe we covered this earlier, but it is always on the test. Word, Excel, I think even PowerPoint, they all, I don't know why they care so much about this, but in 2019, you're going to go to Info. I believe in 2016, you just go to File, and it's like right there. But in 2019, you have to go to Info, and you can just change the title or the tag. But what it's going to ask you is to change something that's not here. So you want to make sure that you do advanced properties if they want to know keywords, comments, company, all this stuff is in here as well that you can add to. So that's document properties. And then I touched on this briefly, but just make sure you remember how to name a range. You just highlight the information, give it a name, and notice you can pull down and go straight to that location. No matter where you are, it will find it. So naming ranges, you can do math with ranges, which I believe we review in lessons in part C, where you just say this range plus this range. Instead of highlighting a range, you have a range already named. You can also name a table, and I don't know that this is actually in the assignment. Just make sure you know how to do this. Where you highlight it and you insert a table, you can name the table right there. So that's a table name. So, table 16, I don't know, whatever. So you can actually name a specific table. That may be in there. Notice you can search for it just like a regular range, but because it's a table, it has a special way to name it. Right, and the last thing is indent, which we have done in a previous lesson, but was very brief. And I wanted to cover it again because literally when I took the 2019 test, I was like, what? Like, I did not know you can do that until I took the test. I figured it out. I just guessed where it would be and found it. But I didn't know you could do that. And so that's when you highlight it, you go to alignment, and you just add an indent. So you can have kind of a subcategory without having to have a second column in the way there. So that's how you do that. So that's it. Not a lot of new things in this lesson, but a lot of review. And just about everything in this lesson is guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but is incredibly likely to be on the MOS test that you take. So it's a great review. Make sure you can do everything in it, and you should be fine. Good luck, and thank you for joining me.